Welcome back to Get Real. I'm your host, Bob Gallagher, and I'm joined on the phone today by local real estate agent Kyle Kaagan Donovan of Gibson Sotheby's International Realty out of the Boston office. Kyle is consistently one of the top producing agents at Gibson Sotheby's. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure.
So we asked you on the show today to fill us in about what's going on in the market in Boston and the surrounding areas. So what's your take on the market right now versus where it was, even a couple of years ago?
Well, I think we saw the market really take off between 2012 and 2013. So we've been in an incredibly strong market now for about 4 years, and prices have increased over the past 4 years. Inventory has gotten incredibly low. So what that's fueled is lots and lots of multiple offers, bids going over asking, people dropping contingencies, and it's actually changed the culture of how we behave, believe it or not, in terms of as a listing agent and as a buyer's agent, how we're coaching our sellers and how we're coaching our buyers in terms of the way that the market's behaving is dramatically different than what we would be doing maybe even 4+ years ago. So on the sale side, we used to just, launch a listing and have a marketing plan that maybe spanned out for the first 3 weeks of the listing period and then go from there in terms of feedback. And now we've become accustomed to selling the property within 4 days and managing that 3 weeks of work in probably 48 hours, which is, it sounds easy, I think, if you're looking at it from one perspective, but it's actually quite difficult to manage maybe 15 offers all at once. You're trying to sort through all the paperwork and communicate everything to your seller. Sometimes things are going so quickly that even the buyers don't have a chance to absorb what's going on. And so it's a completely different environment. And so on the buyer side, you've got to coach your buyers through the fact that perhaps they might lose 2 or 3 properties before they're able to actually achieve an accepted offer. And we're working with different strategies on how to coach buyers strategically in terms of what to do in a multiple offer situation. So everything's different, dramatically different. And I'm not even sort of getting into how different the technology is with reference to social media, which has also changed our world quite a bit, and the exposure that people have to all the different, pieces of information with respect to real estate that's online and available, not just on the computer, but now on everybody's phone.
Right.
So it's a different world.
Now, going back to before the market got ultra hot, how many offers could sellers expect on average? Was it 1 or 2, or was it still a decent amount, just spread out over a longer time period?
It's always, even in this market, it's always come down to price, because we've been so fortunate in the Boston area that even in the big dip of 2009, we really didn't experience a tough market. So if properties were presented in their best possible way, so staged, and they presented well, and they were priced really well, they still received multiple offers, but you could expect 2, maybe 3 at once for a multiple offer situation, never more than 5. And now we hear of these and experience these situations where you're getting 15 to 20 offers. But most of the time, pre-2012, you may get 1 offer in the very first portion of a listing period, like the first 24 to 48 hours, a very strong offer that was accepted and executed. And that was a fantastic outcome. Mm-hmm. And that was probably 60 to 70% of what my sellers would experience. And in the multiple offer situations, getting 2 offers was a phenomenal outcome. And now we have this environment where you could get so many offers that, literally am putting them into a spreadsheet and managing 10 to 12 parties in terms of communication and process.
Now the process seems more like a silent auction than it does anything else. Would you agree?
A little bit, but it's also a little bit, it can be entertaining in a way, because you've got people who are trying to differentiate themselves from the buyer side, right? So I actually like it. So you get to know the buyer a little bit more through letters and photos. And I mean, the great thing from the seller side is that you also have people dropping contingencies, so the process can be really smooth if you really just execute an offer. There's no mortgage to worry about. There's no inspection to worry about. You're literally just signing a contract and then moving to the closing. So that piece is quite different. But yes, it can be a little bit like an auction.
So if you're selling a property, and I guess it's safe to assume, especially if you're in Boston, it's going to sell relatively quickly. Do you have to wait until you've closed and sold the house before you can expect to get an offer accepted on the next one you want to buy?
Wait, sorry, say that again. So if I'm listing a property,
yes,
in terms of people who are trying to buy and sell at the same time?
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Do they have to actually go through and close first before they can get an offer accepted, or?
Well, so the way that we have experienced in this market, I should say, I had to have my buyers who are also sellers, so they're taking their equity out of their current home and putting it towards their purchase. What I've typically coached them to do is find what they're buying first, and in tandem, I've already prepared their home to list. So literally the day that their offer is accepted, we list the very next day. And that's because it's been harder to find something to buy, of course, than it has been to sell. So it's been easier in this market to actually buy first and then sell at the very same time and line up the dates, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. But in the offer on the one they're buying, they're not making a contingent on the sale, so their deposit would essentially be at risk.
Yeah, no, never contingent. And to be honest with you, I've been in real estate now for over 11 years, and I've never presented an offer with a home sale contingency. Our market really never withstood that. And I actually don't hear about it happening a lot either.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times it's sort of a tacit element to a mortgage contingency. So essentially, that buyer really can't buy without the equity on their current home, but it's tied into the mortgage contingency. It's really just not written into the offer.
Right.
But because we've been so lucky and so blessed to live in an environment where selling your home is more a process than, a question, right?
Right.
Like, it's just a matter of when, not how. It's never been questioned. So
it happens more in the suburbs, but we're even seeing now, because of what's going on pretty much across the state, at least out as far as Worcester County, we're seeing the same thing where you used to be able to get away with a home sale contingency and on an offer. Now that pretty much everything is resulting in multiple offer situations, you can't have it on there anymore. So we're kind of seeing the same thing happening as you move west.
Right. And it can be stressful. Don't get me wrong. It can definitely be stressful because it's a lot to juggle. And so I always tell my buyers who are soon going to be sellers themselves, because they're trying to tie two transactions together, that there's a lot about this process that becomes a fire drill. You just have to do so much. And, people have to sort of take their priorities away from work and family a little bit and focus on what's going on for probably, a few days in there somewhere, because it does absorb a lot of time. Even just getting your house prepared to put it on the market can be quite stressful. I understand that. And
I know that's one of your specialties is, advising clients on staging and presenting. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It's one of the things that I absolutely love about my job. I find that it brings so much immediate gratification. And so I'll go through with my sellers an action item list in terms of what they need to do to present their home in the best possible light. Ideally, this is far enough in advance that if we need to change a light fixture or change out all the door hardware or paint or, put a lot of stuff into storage, do all the minor fixes, that we have time to do this. But what I inevitably find is that we do all these action items. So most of the time it's really just tweaking things, like I mentioned. So we might change out all the door hardware from brass to oil rubbed bronze or something so that it looks updated, change some light fixtures, maybe add some window treatments, paint something, spruce up the outside if the front door needs to be painted or flowers need to be planted. And then we're ready to shoot the home and get it on the market, and they always say, like, oh my gosh, I'm so bummed that we didn't do this before because I love the way this house looks now. So then they don't want to move. I mean, inevitably they do, right? But
Yeah.
every single person's like, why didn't we do this before? Because it ends up looking so nice.
Right. So even in a market as hot as Boston right now, it's still worth making those changes to to present it in its best light, essentially.
Yeah, and also to reap your best return on investment. I consistently coach my clients that it is the most important piece of the process, because it will help you showcase your home, not just when buyers are present in your home, but the most important piece now, which is the internet, right? And so the photographs are so, so important. And so when you're taking the photographs, there's so much that you need to do to make sure that your home is showcased in the best possible way. And if that's not done, then you're essentially decreasing or lowering the demand that you're going to eventually get for your home, which of course has a direct impact on the offers that you're going to receive.
Right.
Time and time again. I mean, I've actually been on the second side of a listing, so I'm the second agent in, and we do all of these things that weren't done before, and it inevitably sells much, much faster. I mean, it's time and time again, it's proved itself, the methodology has proved itself over and over and over again. Even with before and after photographs, you can see the difference. Even if it's just moving furniture or sort of thinning things out, it can make a huge difference to people. A lot of times, I think people don't understand that, we're all different. We all see things through a different lens. And so some people can't see the potential beyond, the way things currently exist. And so you've got to show them what's the best possible way that this home can look, with the way that the furniture is and the paint color. But it's a joy of mine. I love it.
That's great.
It's a hobby too.
That's great. While I'm thinking about it, I want to give out your contact information. So if you're just joining us, we're talking with Kyle Kaagan Donovan of Gibson Sotheby's International Realty. And if you're looking to buy or sell anywhere in Boston or the surrounding area, you can give her a call. The best number to get her is 617-519-9481. Again, it's Kyle Kaagan Donovan, 617-519-9481. Now, one of the other things that we hear a lot about is foreign buyers coming into the market and making all cash offers. Is that started backing off a little bit, or are you still seeing a lot of it?
We still see that. To be honest, I think that this spring has been slightly lighter than last spring with the influx of cash. The Chinese market collapsed last, I think it was late summer maybe. I can't remember the exact timing, but the Chinese market had some bumps in the road. But before that, last spring it was completely robust with a lot of money coming from China. We still in the Boston market have a lot of cash buyers, and I would say, I'm going out on a limb here, but the majority of what I've experienced has been parents who are buying the homes for their children because they're going to be going to one of our amazing higher education institutions, right? So Harvard and the rest of them. So, but I would say in previous markets, 60 to 70% has been foreign. But to believe it or not, I'm seeing a lot of cash buyers really just of the parental generation buying for their kids, even locally. So we see a lot of it. Because I think with some of the market fluctuations, people have really started to invest more in real estate for longer term investments than putting the majority of their money into the stock market, so to speak, because the Boston market especially really has been quite stable, and the outlook for it looking down into the future is still quite strong with reference to other big markets around the world. I have one client who lives in Hong Kong, and they invest in homes all over the world. They've got a portfolio, and they have heavily invested in Boston. Over the last 2 years, they've bought several properties to keep, not to keep and sell, but to keep.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Just to diversify their portfolio.
Well, it is, and it is a very strong market. It's interesting to see the way that things have changed. One of the things I'm always curious about is what you get for the money. If you're looking for a 2 or 3 bedroom, I assume they're going to be, condominiums for the most part. What are you getting square footage wise, for the typical family living in downtown, and what is a common price point? What do you have to pay to get the average amount of space that a family would need?
Well, that's crept up significantly over the last 4 to 5 years. So it used to be that $1,000 a square foot, and in the South End, for instance, was a very record-breaking number, and now it's more average than not, believe it or not.
Wow.
For luxury properties, if you want full service, you're looking anywhere from, I would say, high 12s to low 13s at a very, very minimum. And then, for instance, at the Millennium Tower, you're getting over $2,000 a square foot consistently. And these used to be just sort of New York City prices, right? And now this is quite common for Boston. So if you're looking at a brownstone in the South End, $8, $9, $1,000 a square foot is average. If you're looking in Southie, you can find something that's a lot lower than that. But the Southie market, believe it or not, has been, I would say, almost stronger than some of the markets on the other side, like, Beacon Hill, Back Bay, and the South End. The market in South Boston has been amazing.
Wow. That's great. We appreciate you.
The new construction there is crazy. You cannot drive down any one of the streets in South Boston without seeing something being built or renovated. Which
is really what you need. I mean, there's definitely a shortage, so it's good to see them doing something about it.
Right. I think a lot of people sort of begrudge that because now it's becoming so expensive. But the neighborhoods are, really strengthening in terms of what that brings from a commercial standpoint and just an overall development standpoint. Like if you look at what's going on in the Seaport as it buoys the South Boston market, it's really quite interesting.
Excellent. So we've been talking with Kyle Kaagan Donovan of Gibson Sotheby's International Realty in Boston. If you're looking to buy or sell anywhere in Boston or the surrounding area, give her a call at 617-519-9481. Again, it's 617-519-9481. Kyle, thanks for joining us on the show today.
You're welcome. Very enjoyable.
Thanks. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more Get Real after this.